It really is a sad thing when a show has so much going for it, but fails in almost every regard in its execution. This really is the best way to describe Akuma no Riddle. This anime really had a lot going from the start. A class full of assassins and a target that cannot be killed. Not to mention the class is nothing but girls. The perfect setup for an interesting show, but for reasons I'm about to talk about, this show just fails. So here's my review of Akuma no Riddle. The story is set at Myojo Academy, a private girls' boarding school. The 10th year's class black has 12 assassins with their sights on one target, Haru Ichinose. Tokaku Azuma is a recent transfer student who is also targeting Ichinose, but she decides that rather than trying to kill Haru, she will protect her from these assassins. 11 assassins, 1 protector, and 1 unkillable target. Seems like a really interesting premise, and it is, but this show's biggest flaw is the way almost every aspect of this is executed. The biggest problem with this show is the way it's set up. Akuma no Riddle takes an assassin of the week approach. Every episode features a different assassination attempt, focusing on each character in Class Black. This setup makes this show incredibly episodic, meaning that each character, aside from Haru and Tokaku, get only 1 episode of development. This leads to shallow characters, rushed conclusions, and a drowned out overarching story. Because of these reasons, Akuma no Riddle really fails to create anything meaningful, and that is exactly what I mean by this show failing in its execution. Throughout the show, it sets up loads of interesting things for itself, with some great ideas and interesting story elements, but considering this show is so character-centric because of the way it's set up, each character is only given 1 episode, and this makes for any possible conclusions for all these characters to feel forced. The best example of this is in episode 6. The theme of Romeo and Juliet as Class Black was putting on this play was really interesting to me, and this show had something amazing going for it with an amazing idea and setup, but because they only had 1 episode, the conclusion that was drawn felt so forced, making all meaning feel lost. All the things that are wrong with the show really traces back to the way everything was handled. However, all the assassination attempts were very enjoyable to watch and handled relatively well. Considering these attempts are what the show focuses on, it does make for a fun show in that regard. The assassinations were individual to each character and made them all feel fresh. This show also does a good job of creating tension with the assassination attempts, and they all really give off a great dark atmosphere. The ending and conclusion to this show is also one of the worst parts about it. The ending is just so laughably bad it's almost not to be taken seriously, but I do suppose there is some justification if you were to look hard enough, but this is only speculation based on what was seen, and this is just another way of looking at this terrible ending. The last words Tokaku says before the ending goes to crap is, "My wish can't be granted anymore," and this is just my speculation that the scenes that take place afterwards are just an envisionment of Tokaku's wish, but it cannot come true because everything that has taken place with the characters. But of course this is just speculation and me trying to make this terrible conclusion seem less terrible. Either way, the show played it too safe with the conclusion, and it really is a serious downside of the show. Also, despite having the Shoujo AI tag, this show has little to no Yuri in it. If there's any romance, it's very subtle, so don't go in expecting Yuri. It will only lead to disappointment. The story of Akuma no Riddle had a lot going for it with its premise, but failed in every regard in its execution. The overarching story is forgettable, interesting concepts, the conclusion to these are rushed, and the overall conclusion to the show plays it way too safe and is almost laughable. Also, there is no Yuri. That's what I'm most upset about. Because of the way the story is set up, this show is extremely character driven, but the thing about this show is that the assassination of the week approach makes all the characters incredibly shallow given they only have 1 episode to fully develop, with the exception of Haru and Tokaku. Character development is shown in 3 different ways: through a flashback, what they want as their reward, or how they fail the assassination. This really brings the show down because you don't care for these characters. For the sake of this video and because the whole show is driven on side character interactions and development, the only characters I will talk about will be Haru and Tokaku. Azuma Tokaku is a distant and cold girl. Even at first glance she has the appearance of an assassin. Azuma dislikes it when other people try to get close to her. Given the fact that Tokaku is the main character and she gets more than 1 episode to develop, she's probably the best character in the cast. She's given extensive backstory and changes as a character as the show progresses. She has a really interesting backstory as well that really shows off her motivation as well as her actions throughout the show. Haru Ichinose, also known as Best Girl, is shown to be a bright and cheerful girl of the black class. She aims to become friends with everyone and is essentially the class's mood maker. She's kind to everyone without fail until they become hostile with her. Haru is the target that everyone in the class is after. Haru is also basically unkillable. Like, seriously, how is she not dead? But as a character, Haru feels somewhat lacking. She is given some backstory, but very minimal. We are only given insight into what gives her will to live, but really nothing more. It isn't even revealed why she is the target until the last 2 episodes. Haru has the very minimum a character needs, but I suppose she isn't a terrible character given what she has. And come on, she's adorable. The rest of the assassins are severely underdeveloped because of the nature of the show. Conclusions for each character felt forced considering they're only given 1 episode, and one character doesn't even get to make an assassination attempt. Although the one thing I can say is that the characters all had very strong sense of individuality. The characters for this show are incredibly two-dimensional given the nature of the show, and with the exception of Tokaku, are definitely not what you watch this show for. The art and animation for Akuma no Riddle does a great job of creating a dark atmosphere that really increases the intensity of the assassinations. This show also uses facial expressions excellently to showcase the character's flippant personality and true murderous intent, very similar to Higurashi. The character design as well do a great job of creating individuality within the characters because Lord knows their development doesn't do it. Each character design feels different and really stuck out to me. The show also took a lot of interesting design choices like limiting the students outside of class black to only a black and white color palette. Also, given that most of this show takes place at night, the show has a fantastic use of lighting and effects. The animation is nothing inherently special, but is consistent. It's good enough to keep you engaged in the action, but it's never bad enough to draw you away. It stays looking above average throughout, and that is something incredibly important. The sound for Akuma no Riddle is nothing special, but it does the job. It uses a lot of fast-paced, dark atmospheric tracks to keep you engaged in the assassinations, but really no tracks were inherently memorable. But where the show really shines is in the opening and endings. The opening for the show is one of my favorite OPs of all time, being really fast-paced and really set you up for the episode to follow, but I find it incredibly exceptional about this show as each character has their own individual ending, all of which are great, which was an amazing touch. The voice actors for the show did an excellent job as well, showcasing the character's true killer personality perfectly, both in and outside the assassinations. I think it's really hard for me to recommend this show. Honestly, I really did enjoy it, but it just had so much wrong with it by way of its execution I find myself questioning whether or not I think this is really worth your time, so I'll let you decide. The story has a really interesting premise but fails in almost every regard by way of execution. The way this show is set up leads the characters to be incredibly shallow outside of the main characters, but they all carry a great sense of individuality. The assassination attempts are enjoyable and carry a great dark tone throughout, and really the only reason why you watch the show in the first place. The art really showcases the perfect atmosphere given the context and setting, with a great use of individualized character designs and facial expressions, and animation is consistently good. Also, the sound is good, and the opening and 12 individual character-centric endings are all great as well, but don't go in expecting Yuri. You will be disappointed. If you like episodic series or just want an enjoyable watch, by all means watch this show. But if anything I have said here has turned you off in any way, this will not be the show for you. As for other recommendations, I just think you should check out Problem Children Are Coming From Another World, Aren't They? It's made by the same studio, Dio Media, and is a great watch. I also recommend Danganronpa. While I haven't seen this show myself, I've heard they share a lot of similarities. Also, I couldn't think of anything else. So that wraps it up for my review of Akuma no Riddle, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave a like if you did, and leave your opinions on this show in the comment section down below. I know a lot of people don't like this show. I know there may be some people out there who do, but I think that's the minority. But I enjoyed it for what it was, and, you know, like I said, if anything I said here turns you off, don't watch it. But, you know, if you think it'd be fun, give it a go. It's a pretty fun show, as long as you're not expecting Yuri. So that wraps it up for me. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment your thoughts on the show and on the review, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.